Well, good morning to you all, good morning. It is Thursday, what's that, the 16th of July 2020. Things have been done already. I've done a wash load, I've been to the market, I've taken gravats, broken up bits of plaster, crud, to the déchetterie, the tip. I got told off for being too early, but you know, such is life. And now it's time, the walrus said, to talk of many things. I was sort of thinking about starting this video with someone singing "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross." But this, of course, isn't the wondrous cross. It's rather wondrous. Not quite as old as the wondrous cross, but one does wonder exactly how old it is. This is one of the beams that had been serving as a ceiling joist for over 100 years in this house. And you look at it and you think, well, it wasn't always a ceiling joist. It's cut as if at some time it was a ridge board or a ridge beam or something like that. I don't know. So before it went into this house, it had already had a life. And I intend to use it just as a post. You look at it and you think it's rotten, it's got wormholes in, it's terrible, and then you look closely and you put a saw through it and you see that in the middle it's as good as the day that someone first used it. It's heavy, it's oak, and the challenge is preserving its character whilst cleaning it up a bit so that you don't sort of catch things on it all the time. It's also got to be cut to length, which is my first job because it's heavy, and if I can take 6 inches off one end, that'll make it a bit lighter. It's got to be jointed. I'm not going to do anything too fancy, it's just going to have halving joints to do the job I want it for. It's the colour it is because I've just hit it with some woodworm killer wood preserver stuff. That'll dry out a little bit lighter as the day progresses, one hopes. But there we are, an ancient beam. Yeah, see, wormholes. Now, of course, the worms tend not to get all the way into the middle of the heartwood. They tend to stick on the thinner layers. That's what we'll be playing with today. Well, there's a nice view of a slice through the beam. I've counted it. It was about 70 years old when it was first felled to be used. So if we think it's been in my house 100 years and it had been somewhere else before that, who knows how long. But it was, the tree itself was 70 years old when the first carpenter decided to fell it and use it. It's got some sort of interesting splits, but that's not a problem because it's not going to be bearing weight as a beam. It's going to be bearing weight in effect as a strut, as a post. So the fact that it's got these interesting splits and shakes in it is not an issue for what I'm using it for. Would I use it as a beam? Probably not, but I'm quite happy to use it as a post. But this piece I'm going to use as firewood, of course. Well, what have we been up to? To clean it, this is a nylon brush in the cheap nasty go on drill. That gets rid of all of the loose material and the I don't know a polite word for it, the crud, leaving us just with solid wood. Some of it isn't that solid, you know, it's been nibbled by worms and what have you. I cut a bit of gash batten that I had kicking about and used that to mark where I want to cut, because this is not a piece of timber for chucking in and out of a job and measuring up against a job. So piece of scrap timber just used in effect as a ruler just to measure it up, and I've marked on it where I want the cuts made. So the next thing of course is to suck it in and cut. I've started cutting. Oddly, I haven't got a Black & Decker that will cut oak like this, so it's a hand job. But the kettle is on, and I'm going to have tea before I continue. Well, there we are. Cut to length, notched at the top. Yeah, I think it's time to start washing in some varnish to that. Yeah, I'm pleased with myself. I've got to measure up where the other notch goes. There's another joist has got to be fitted to it. But yeah, I'm not quite ready to do that yet, and I'm still waiting for the concrete pad that I've set to go off before I start measuring up for that. Well, those of us that are old and ugly prefer to think that the lines in our faces just show a bit of character, and that we've been around a bit and we've done a few things. I've chucked a bit of a coat of varnish on. The tin that I had, I'd picked up a little tin for another job, and I've actually run out of varnish. So I've put the tin safely so that I make sure and get the same sort when I go back to the shop on Saturday. But I thought you might just like to admire this wonderful post. And just as a sort of thought, you know, this post, well, old ceiling beam, ceiling joist, you know, it's been a ceiling joist longer than any of us have been, and that was at least its second use. Before that it had been some sort of ridge beam. And as I say, it was about 80 years old when the first woodsman cut it down from the forest. So who knows, are we back as far as the American Revolution? French Revolution? I don't know. But it's been around a while, and I rather hope that it's going to be around a little bit longer. Doing a different job, but still going to be load bearing. Don't know what she's after, but she's after something. It's holding her attention. Now we could stand here for an hour and she won't move, or she might suddenly dive into the long grass and come out with something. Well, there we are. where you came out with a mouse. Now she's going to take it upstairs and give to the children to play with. Well, there we are. What I actually came out here to do was to show you where this post is going. And after much huffing and puffing and grunting and groaning, because it ain't light, and I don't know, I seem, during the course of the day, you seem to get less strong. It's going to stay there for tonight. It's got to come back out. And I did make a little mistake. I forgot to allow for the bracket. So I've got to do a little bit of cutting, but not a big issue because it's got to come out anyway to have another slot cut in it there to take the little beamlet that is going to go in that sabot there, that bracket, which will carry the floor that's going to go in like that. At least that will carry a beam, and the floor will be on joists going across that wall. So yeah, I'm pleased with what I've done. Annoyed I made a silly little mistake, but it's not a big mistake. And as I say, this has got to come out again and have a halving cut into it to take that beam there. But this is progress. Is it as satisfying as catching a mouse? It was a very small mouse, wasn't it? Between 4 of them, it's not going to go very far. But yeah, I'm sort of pleased with my day's efforts.